Get ready for 3 brilliancies in one game from the one and only Alireza Firouzja. His opponent was the 24-year-old Indian player Aravindh Chithambaram, a strong 2650 GM. Now you might think you know the result, but things get weird, so stick with this one. We get d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and now after knight c3, it invites the mainline Nimzo Indian, but we get d5, going back into a Queen's Gambit declined. Alireza takes, and the main move is recaptures, setting up the so-called Carlsbad pawn structure. But the knight recaptures, a more provocative way to play, because you give white this big centre, shades of the kind of Grunfeld defence, but without the bishop fianchettoing. So c5 is played, striking at that centre. We get rook b1. Why? Well, after captures, pawn recaptures, you're now stopping bishop b4 check, which starts trading more pieces, a pair of bishops. And if you can, as white, you want to keep pieces on the board, you're the side with the more space. So we get knight f3, castles, and now Alireza plays one of the most aggressive continuations. He flings that rook's pawn down the board. He wants to attack. We get captures, pawn recaptures, b6, trying to develop that miserable looking bishop. Now pawn h5 and h6, a very natural response. This is a much better pawn structure than the pawn here and a pawn on g6. Now we get rook h3, Alireza bringing that rook into the game in a very enterprising manner. This is how modern engines have shown you can play at times. And after knight d7, Alireza now solidifies that pawn structure in the centre, does give black the d5 square, but that knight isn't actually able to get there anytime soon, as we can see. In the meantime, you've now opened this diagonal to attack the king. There could even be ideas of rerouting this knight one day, especially if these bishops exchange. So white with all the fun and the plans. We get bishop b7, pressuring this knight which supports the centre. You do have to keep that pawn under lock and key. You don't want to drop that one. Now we get king h8, and the computer doesn't love it, calls it an inaccuracy. It preferred rook c8, because now bishop e3 not only supports the centre, but sets up queen d2, caveman, nasty attacking idea, and this is why black's position is already really close to critical. So f5 played to play against this queen d2 idea. Now there are ideas of rook f7, for example, as a defensive try, maybe even f4 to chuck a pawn, get some play. But Alireza now doesn't go queen d2, also doesn't take en passant to help black develop pieces, attack this pawn. He goes bishop c4, attacking the weakness of the last move, this e6 pawn at the base of the pawn chain. And how do you defend that one? You can't actually do so unless you go bishop d5, but that's a horrible pawn structure to go in for. So queen e8 played, but Alireza doesn't take the pawn. Now at first I thought, oh okay, bishop b4 check, you win the piece back. But actually that's really bad. The rook just takes it, right? No good. Sorry, I've got a cat going in front of my microphone right now. Don't know if that's being picked up. So coming back here, if you take here and this isn't the move, well then what was the plan? Well, the move is bishop e4 apparently. You hit this one, and if you go rook b3 to keep covering this square, well now black has these ideas of rook d8 lining up with the queen, and there's ideas of knight c5 in the air, and the queen is opposite the king long term, and I don't know, it's all very, very weird, but apparently black can get some decent play here. So Alireza doesn't touch this pawn, he just goes queen to b3 instead. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. The bloody cat has come in here. Needs to go out. She's a pain in the ass. Sorry about that. Right, bishop e4 played. Hits this rook. So Alireza sidesteps it. There were some interesting lines where you give up the exchange. a5 now from black. Going after that queen, trying to kick it away. Still the pawn on prise, still not taken. Alireza goes for bishop to d2 to cover these bishop b4 check ideas. And now a4 played, kicks the queen here, and bishop a3 targeting that rook. There's this kind of cat and mouse game going on right now, but white is better. Alireza sidesteps, the bishop drops back. you know, you have to keep an eye on this diagonal. There could be ideas of knight h4 into here. We now see king f1, tucking that king to the side, bishop b7 with ideas of bishop a6, and so Alireza goes rook c1, adds some protection here, bishop a6 comes anyway, and now he can drop his queen back because it doesn't have to stay with this bishop, and black makes a blunder. The computer says queen c8 is the best move, weird kind of square in line with the rook, or you can take on c4, but the position's tough for black. Weaknesses around the king, weak pawns here. So we see bishop a3, again playing some tickle with the rook on c1, but this time Alireza does not move the rook. He plays the great move of bishop takes on a6. And this isn't even one of the three brilliancies when you run it with the game review. Now, why is this so good? Well, after the bishop takes here, queen recaptures, rook takes, we go back to that caveman attack. Alireza smashes through. This was the picture in the thumbnail. He goes bishop takes on h6. And you cannot capture, or the queen swoops in with check, and the rook and queen together close the trap on the king. So that bishop is immune. Instead we get queen c8. Black desperate to trade these queens off, but Alireza just carries on ripping open the king. He takes bishop takes on g7, the second brilliant move here. Now the king does recapture this time, and Alireza doesn't quite find the most precise move. Queen g5 check, best, according to the engines. You leave the rook behind this pawn and it can start running in some lines. That was the main way to go. But Alireza goes for this one, also very understandable. The king sidesteps, the knight hops with check, king e7 of course to stay with this pawn, and now rook c3. This is Alireza's idea of leaving this one here. He invades on the c file, black getting kicked around like a ping pong ball here. And now Alireza plays the wrong continuation, but it looks so natural. So what should he do? Well, the top way to play here, according to the engine, is rook c7. Now the queen is encouraged into d5 where it hits d4, so it's not easy to see why this is good. But then you actually step back with the rook. I mean, this isn't an easy concept, up, back. And because you hit this pawn here, even though black takes here, you can now land this deadly check from a3, and because you sidetracked this queen over here, the king is in dire straits. You know, if you block with the knight, which is the best move, then you crash through here, the king can't step this way, so you have to come here and you win the queen. And coming back here, if you don't block with that knight, you know, your king's in check, say you come back here, well now you get mated in one, and if you come back here, you run into this king fork with king and queen. So some tactics going on, killer tactics, rook c7 best. But Alireza checks first, understandable. We see king e8, now the knight crashes on e6, looks amazing for white, but great defense from black. We see pawn b5, threatening b4, forking these, and opening up the rook here. So this rook comes up the board, hits the queen, supported by the knight. It is the best move. Now we get queen b8 played. You have to stay with this back rank here or it gets terminal for black. And now queen c1 threatens to win that queen. There's nothing sensible black can actually do but give up the queen but gain the knight in the process. And because Alireza already gave up a minor piece earlier, when the smoke clears here, there's queen for two rooks, but also black has a knight, and the only reason Alireza isn't just straight up worse is because he's got 3 pawns for that knight plus these connected central ones. So we've now got a weird balance in the game. White's still better, but only just according to the engine. So queen b4 check a threat to win this pawn. So the rook covers the pawn, and now here Alireza gets ambitious with pawn d5. So b4 comes from black to try and kick that well-placed queen, and Alireza on the time control makes a blunder. This is move 40, they're both low on time. What should he do? Well, queen d4 or queen g3, you've got to stay with the e-pawn. Alireza goes queen c4, a much trickier move. You know, say you go b3 now, trying to make a queen. Then there's this d6 check, and the queen covers this diagonal. So after the king retreats, you know, pick your poison. Then there's queen c7 check, and this attack rages on, and the knight drops. So that's a good way to lose the game, b3, d6. But what if you just take this pawn, which black plays? And actually, you can't recoup that pawn or any material, because after this check here, the knight drops back and covers the rook. And if you check here, which Alireza played, well, now the rook covers the check. And again, none of these pieces are actually dropping off the board, so you've just lost a very important pawn. So after this queen takes here, well, black is even slightly better now according to the engine if you go knight d7. But knight f7 played, we get check. The game is just turning around here. Rook f6, and now the queen takes on a4. This position's given level. And by the way, sorry, the third brilliant move that was played in this game, it was when the queen dropped back to c1, giving up the knight on e6. Basically, anytime you hang pieces, it gets called a brilliancy by the game review tool. So it's now black to move. We get rook d8 coming after this pawn. It's not long for this world. Check, king back, queen c3, hits this rook. It doubles with its brother, the d pawn dropping, so Alireza runs the a pawn. Now this check, the king steps up. The rook comes back to stop the advance of this pawn here. We get g3, king e7, and now we basically see a series of shuffly moves here. Black hesitant to try and make progress and disconnect the pieces. Alireza not able to advance these pawns without losing one of them here. So at this position, on move 56, after rook f6, the players did agree a draw. So a great attack by Alireza, he just couldn't finish it off. He kind of lost his mojo at the moment. I hope you enjoyed this one. To see another epic game of chess, do check out the video on screen, and thanks very much for watching. See you soon.